What is up, and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm taking a second look at Sugarcane because I'm starting to realize that my 2025 is basically going to be me taking second looks at films that I originally was not presented audio description for screener purposes, but then later on I found audio description for them. So join me again on another second look. Click like and subscribe because I am a blind film critic that talks about audio description and accessibility. Even on films like Sugarcane, which is an Oscar-nominated documentary. It did not win. That's how long it took for audio description to get on Sugarcane. And the sad thing is, it's been on Disney Plus since December. They should have had this on there when they debuted it. And we're giving them a pat on the back for doing it 3 months later. That's what's happening. And that's why things are important, like standing up for diversity, equity, inclusivity, is to continue to push for audio description and accessibility, and let these companies know how important that is to build an accessible world, because they get kind of lazy sometimes. But this is Sugarcane, which in my initial review I said was one of the best documentaries of the year. I just wish I could review it. So A plus. No, an A plus just means I like one of my favorite movies of all time, but definitely an A. That's my final grade. We can fast track that. I felt that from the very beginning. The first time I watched Sugarcane, I was like, I just need audio description to be able to put a ring on it, you know? in Beyonce terms. But no, this is a devastating and heartbreaking look at what Canada has done to its indigenous populations, which I'm always honest on this channel. I didn't realize the movie took place in Canada. Did not. When I first screened this movie, like 3+ months ago, I missed that in the context of the movie. Yes, I can always Google and do further research on every single movie on all of the 457 movies that I did, but I kind of just cold watched it from the very beginning. Didn't really know what I was about to get myself into, and I feel if you're not going to offer me audio description and accessibility, I shouldn't have to do too much to like go out on the internet and fill in the gaps myself. It's not fun. Sighted people don't do that, you know. Just watch Mickey 17. Now I have to go Google and listen to a whole bunch of other people talk about Mickey 17 so that I can understand what the movie's about. Probably means it was a confusing movie if you're having to do that. But Sugarcane is excellent. It's profound, it's heartbreaking, it's devastating. It warns you straight up, like, what you're about to see is fucked up. Uh, and it's something that never should have happened. It's something that people are just now starting to reckon with and deal with. And so many of the things were brought into context. Like, not only did I get the idea that they were actually in Canada, I actually was like, oh, that's Justin Trudeau that's in here. I didn't know that. Sometimes I don't say people's names actually, openly in the dialogue of the film, so you don't always know who's in what. Context being given to who the different people are. The one man who's training, who's like learning a little bit of Latin so that he can go speak to the Pope, because he's been invited to the Vatican to speak with the Pope on what happened to his people as one of the survivors of these Catholic schools that sought to sort of denatify. I don't know that that's a word. These indigenous children and Christianize them and bring them into faith and take them away from their families and everything that they know and their traditions, strip them of that, put them in here, rape them, do stuff like that. That was definitely happening. Kill them. They found a lot of unmarked graves. I mean, it was just brutal. It was brutal and abuse. And um, there have been other things that have touched on this before in media. Most recently, 1923 has an entire character with a subplot of this indigenous girl who escaped from one of these in America, and she's being tracked down. Like they won't let it go. They're like, oh, we gotta hunt her down and bring her back. Um, so yeah, this is a real thing that really happened. Some guy like writes a nasty letter that the filmmaker reads, and like uh or the main guy driving the film, I guess, reads back, and I'm just like, man, this letter is so off base, you know. Um, you just want attention, you know. I don't know, man. I No, we just kind of want answers because there are a lot of unmarked graves, and somebody did that. So, and people, there's this idea, and we're fucking doing it down here. We're being pervasive in this, like, well, aren't you glad we subjugated you? We fucking took you from your shit and taught you how to be, and now we're trying to teach like the positive effects of slavery in our schools. No, no. There are people who are just perfectly fucking fine doing their own thing in their own lives. And you can ask them if they'd like that, but nobody ever asked. Nobody ever said, "Hey, would you like to learn this?" No, we just took people and forced them to learn it. And there's a difference in that. And regardless of whether or not you think somebody is better off because you forced them to do something, doesn't necessarily make it right. So this documentary does an excellent job of sort of showing, um, I want to say almost like generational trauma, but it's like unknown generational trauma because, they sit there and are playing like Christmas music over this station, and they're listening to like Silent Night, and they're getting ready to celebrate Christmas. And I'm like, this is a holiday they wouldn't even be celebrating if like they hadn't all been like forced into this thing and forced into Christmas pageants, and taught this religion that wasn't theirs, and now they're listening to Christmas carols and putting up Christmas trees, and it's sort of this remnant of this time, of this horrible place that has left this lasting impact on them. And it's sort of like the quiet side effect. It's not the one that they're necessarily fighting to uncover, which is all of the harm and abuse. But the other thing is sort of the loss of culture. One of the things I also like about Sugarcane is it dives into kids that came out of places like these who were mixed race, who were indigenous and white, likely because they were raped by someone at a school like this, and that those kids were treated less than by their own indigenous people because of not being like a pure blood uh, from their tribe. So I mean, there's so much in Sugarcane. It's such an important documentary. It has so much to say. I'm so glad it has audio description. Liz Gutman at International Digital Center did the audio description for it. I'm not familiar with the narrator. I'm hoping that we did responsible casting and that she's indigenous of some kind. That would be great. I always kind of hope for that. Um, and if you haven't seen Sugarcane, I know it's a hard watch. It's depressing. I'm not going to tell you at all if this movie's happy. It's not. There's nothing happy in this movie. There's no joy to be found in Sugarcane, but there is a lot of interesting history. And it's important for us to continue to talk about this kind of stuff. And lest we repeat it, lest we allow ourselves to uh, to continue this bad behavior, to ever allow it again. And the fact that there are people out there that are like, well, that was a good thing because, before they were just out there, I don't know, banging trees or whatever they were doing. And now you know, now they can read and write and they pray to God. So didn't we win? Didn't we do the good thing? No, because it wasn't their choice. At the end of the day, it all comes down to giving somebody the choice to do something. Anyway, God, consent, man. We're really we're working really hard on that, trying to get people to understand what is consent. Good God. Anyway, Sugarcane, I already said it was an A. It's an A. And I've had lots of thoughts on Sugarcane and praise the filmmakers for this is one of the best documentaries of the year, easily. I think because of the way I did my documentary list, I had to leave it in the honorable mentions because I did my top 10 were the top 10 documentaries that had audio description, and then my honorable mentions were like the top 10 on that did not have audio description. So, unfortunately, I was not presented audio description at the time, but yep, Sugarcane, excellent. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Remember, diversity, equity, inclusivity are not bad words. And when we talk about words like those and we understand other perspectives, we tend to not do shit like this that later needs a documentary called Sugarcane. So, upside to continuing to talk about things like that. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the other side.